KFAN celebrates our $5,000 teacher winners in iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. There's still time to nominate a public school teacher making a difference. They could be next to win $5,000 to make over their classroom. Do it now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers.
It's a couple 13-14 past. Hour number 2, Common Man program. Time now for a little 5, 3, 4.
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4.
Brought to you by Willow River Company.
Question number 1. It's time now for the lowdown in Dinkytown.
Yeah, the Gophers women's basketball team, they are on their way into the Sweet 16 after beating Mississippi 65-63 yesterday at the Barn. Mar Braun had a game-tying three-pointer with 77 seconds left. Sophie Hart, another Minnesotan, had hit a go-ahead layup with 18 seconds left. And then, with Justin Gard on the call, Amaya Battle did this with 0.8 seconds left.
Raholski to inbound. Get it into Amaya Battle. 15-foot baseline. Jumper is good! Out the buzzer for the Sweet 16!
Yeah, Minnesota returning to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2005. They'll face the winner of tonight's UCLA-Oklahoma State game. Common, your thoughts?
Didn't JG have something like battle wins the battle, but not the war, or something like that? Didn't he? I mean, didn't he have some kind of a, Jim Nance used to always have.
Yeah.
Well, they all do, right? If they win some kind of a game, they got some little, they sit on some kind of close to the game. Did he not?
Well, I think he was in a weird spot there because he didn't know if it was a true buzzer beater or if there was still time left on the clock. So I think he was, because even after that, he paused for a little bit because the team was celebrating like they had won, but then the refs are now saying, we got to take a look at this. I think he also assumed there was still more time on the clock, so he couldn't give like that final, because he ended up didn't having another final call after that. Because Mississippi got the one inbound play on. So I think that's where he couldn't do the Jim Nance call there, because it wasn't final.
And I don't think he wears a tie, so he wasn't able to give Battle his tie, his necktie, like Jim used to do, right? Because I don't think JG wears a tie during the games, or does he?
I don't know. I've never seen what he looks like during the games.
Yeah, I've not either. We did a montage Friday. Dead list, 63 teams. And it was
I always love that one.
It was a combination Larry Mandela guy and Maury Amsterdam guy. You could tell, though. I'm just telling you. And he's going to now, his feelings get hurt because he's got such things.
You can tell which ones are Larry Mandela guy?
No. When Blakemore brought it to me, he goes, do we want to do it? It's almost like he didn't really want to do it. And I thought he was all gung-ho. And maybe I misunderstood it. He's going to feel, his feelings get hurt really bad. But he did it, and he did a great job. And that's where...
Well, my guess is, from a montage standpoint, the access to Gophers women's highlights are more challenging to retrieve than other teams.
You would think, but what Larry Mandela guy says is that JG was going to provide him to him, because I think JG loved being a part of the montage.
Of course, yeah. I'm sure he loved it.
So, and you know what? That's where I have a newfound respect. We started calling him, after I heard the montage, instead of the tasteless box of mashed potatoes, we called him the tasteless box of mashed potatoes, because he's really good. He's really, I tip my cap to him after his work at the Minnesota State High School girls basketball tournament. He did 4 games in a row, or, all 4 championship games. And I saw the second half of the 4A game, and he did a really good. At first, I didn't. Deuce and I were kind of listening with half an ear, and Deuce goes, is that JG? And I go, let's listen. And it was JG. I didn't know he was doing the high school games. I know he does the women's Gophers. He did a really nice job. But his work on with the highlight package that we did for the montage was really good. I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to say something controversial.
That's interesting.
I don't think he's long for KFAN.
Oh my gosh.
If indeed he'd like to be a play-by-play person somewhere for some university somewhere, other than just doing nothing wrong with being the women's, but you get to that men's Division I, I think the money starts to become pretty good, and
he might consolidate those 10 jobs into one job. That's what you're trying to say.
Well, I think it's possible. He's really good at it. But anyway, we weren't talking about him. We were talking about the game. I watched the last 7 minutes, and I turned it on because they were trailing by like 8, I think. I saw the score, and I went, oh, no, really? I thought this was going to be our one shiny moment, and they just kept battling.
They're battling. Amaya battling.
Yeah, the Amaya battled, and it was fun to watch, and they had a couple of critical turnovers that I thought, well, that's it. Can't turn the ball over in that situation, but they hung in there and they won the game, and it was exciting. It was, Chip had wrote a piece. Chip Scoggins, we text and talk more than most people know, esteemed columnist, both from Woodbury. He had wrote a piece leading up to the game. He also wrote a nice story last night after the game, and that appeared in the Fish Wrap. And he had said, well, this is a team that they don't really have one star. They spread it around. They don't have one. They don't have a top 25 scorer in the Big Ten or something. There are all sorts of stats, but they all contribute. Like 5 of them are double-digit scores on average. They're a true team, right? I mean, they don't have like one big star on the club. And I said, well, that's great, and that's good that they have teamwork, but it could also mean they don't have that one person that can be a star. And so I was thinking, well, I wonder if that's what's happening here in this game against Ole Miss, is that, they don't have somebody that can take over a game. But it was a prime example about several people contributing. Braun, Battle, who's the other gal that got the putback?
Sophie Hart.
Hart. I mean, those 3, all from Minnesota, all contributed mightily, as did others in what I watched. And so, yeah, it was a team performance. It's nice. You get to the Sweet 16. So good for the Golden Gophers.
Question number 2.
It's now time to take an in-depth look at the welfare of the Wolves.
So Gophers women get to the Sweet 16 for the first time in 21 years. And the Wolves won in Boston for the first time in 21 years. They beat the Celtics 102-92 last night, and they did it without Anthony Edwards, but they got 23 points from Bones Highland. Ayo Desanmu added 17 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and then Naz Reid did come back after missing 2 games. He scored 8 consecutive points in the fourth quarter. Common, what sticks out to you from last night's Wolves win in Boston?
The team is better without Anthony Edwards. They're a better club without him. I suggested this while you were away, that they should trade him. Well, he wanted.
You suggested that when I was here.
Did I think? Yeah. Well, he wants to go to Atlanta. He can't wait to get home. When you have a player that, and it's great to have a guy that can score 30 points a game. I don't deny that in any way, shape, or form. And you want a guy that you can trust that come fourth quarter, bring it to Ant, right? I let DiVincenzo and Randall and Gobert and Nas and Dusu. How do you say his name?
I'm not the guy to ask. Maybe Rosen tomorrow can help you.
And Bones, I let them do their thing for 3 quarters. Come fourth quarter, bring it to Ant. But sometimes when one guy feels like, well, I'm the guy, I got to take the shot all the time, then they take ill-advised shots, they don't go in, and you lose your playoff game, and it's over. So what? Do I really feel they are a better team without him? No. But it's like in any situation, tend to be. I mean, for instance, when I'm out, I bet you and who's ever sitting in that chair, let's say it's Brett Blakemore, you guys bring your A game because you got big shoes.
Sure.
Okay, that's probably a bad example. But they know we don't have Ant. We don't have him. We can't just go, oh, Ant's going to get us 30. Ant's going to take the tough shot. Ant's going to try to play defense. Like when Ant wants to play defense, he's a really good defensive player. So when you don't have him in the lineup, all of a sudden it probably does make you say, I guess I got to contribute a little bit more. We really have to mind our P's and Q's, dot our I's, and cross our T's, because their record without Ant is actually pretty good. Is it like 10-4, 11-5, something like that? So, but yeah, that they're able to play without him, and beating Boston's a playoff team. That's nice. You want to prove you can beat those clubs. I don't know. I guess Boston was probably shorthanded too. Who knows? But yeah, you win. So again, I know the basketball community is weary of me. They probably don't even listen anymore to my rants about the lack of effort, especially defensively by the Wolves. It seems like game after game after game. I've just decided that's just the way it's going to be. Just we'll see where the chips fall. Where they are as a seed, will they be 3, 4, 5, or 6? I don't think they're going to fall into the play-in now with Phoenix. What did you say it was 4.5 back?
2.5 back, I think. Yeah,
3. I thought it was 3.5. But regardless, I just don't think they're going.
I'm sorry, they're 4 back now.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to fall behind Phoenix. So just wherever they fall, and then playoffs start, and you see what happens. And obviously. Your attention ratchets up, the intensity does, because you can't afford you lose 4, you're done, it's over. So, and maybe they can recapture what they did the last 2 years and get to the Western Conference Finals again.
Let's do a quick one.
Question number 3.
All Vikings, let's win this game. You'll hear us yell for more.
It's now time to take an in-depth look at the state of the score.
To talk about. Good for you.
Kind of, I guess, because someone wants to come here, it sounds like. Free agent wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins recently told TMZ that he'd be thrilled to reunite with Kyler Murray, who, of course, recently signed with our Minnesota Vikings. Ooh. Hopkins said, quote, "Kyler, that's my bro, man. Kyler's like family. I talked to Kyler throughout the year last year. I talked to Kyler after a situation in Arizona. Kyler's like family, man. I would always embrace that journey with him. He's on a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. Whatever I can do for someone like that, if Kyler needed me, if the Vikings needed me, they know I'll be there." Common, should the Vikings pursue wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins?
Well, I have a couple of questions for you there. Should we take this other side of the break?
Sure.
Because there's some. I'd not caught that piece. I guess I'm not preparing for my show as much as I used to. Okay. I did not see that piece. It raises some interesting issues. We'll take a look at that and several other topics. By the way, 534 brought to you by Willow River Company. Don't just maintain your property, experience it. With a Willow River Experience monthly subscription, you can bundle or boondele 5 core services, 3 seasonal upgrades, and 4 custom add-ons into one simple plan. See what I did there? Visit WillowRiverCompany.com today to build your 534 experience. That's WillowRiverCompany.com.
And that's it for today's edition of 5 Questions. Well, actually 3 questions, but 5 sounds like more than 4.
KFAN welcomes some great shows to Mystic Lake Amphitheater. The Guess Who will be there June 25th, John Mellencamp on July 14th, and Guns N' Roses will be there August 8th. Get the complete details on all of our upcoming shows on the concert page at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Anthony Hopkins, wide receiver, right?
DeAndre Hopkins.
Who's Anthony Hopkins?
He's an actor.
Are you sure Anthony's not an actress? I mean, Rosen gets that confused sometimes. So he says he'd love to play here. Couple of questions. Does he have anything left?
Not much left.
Oh.
No, this is not the potentially Hall of Fame DeAndre Hopkins that you're thinking of that was great with the Houston Texans and for a short stint with the Arizona Cardinals. He's up there in age. I think he's 33-ish.
He was drafted in 2002 along with Carr, wasn't he? I think it was about the same time.
Yeah, he's 33 years old. Hasn't put together a DeAndre Hopkins type season probably in like 4 years. But Could he be a functional number 3, number 4 wide receiver that could excel in the red zone for you? Yeah, I think he could be a role player for you.
Is he a free agent?
Yes.
He's not even on a team, right?
Well, no, he's a free agent because I don't think he's that desirable at this stage of his career.
Well, no wonder he's excited about saying, "Well, I'd love to play."
But like I said, if you can get him for cheap, and he could, like I said, I think he could still be a red zone guy for you, which I don't think the Vikings are very good at. Justin Jefferson has never been a big red zone guy. Jordan Addison, I don't think, TJ Hopkins, they just don't really have that guy. So he could fit in that regard.
This text messenger says, DeAndre Hopkins, do you like parades? Do you think he makes that much of a difference? Then we could start playing that parade route. Yeah, I guess I got excited. Because I was
when you wanted to carry it over to the next break, I'm like, I don't think he realizes how much past his prime.
Well, you're right.
Hopkins
I had no idea because I thought he was still one of the best wide receivers in pro football, and he was just willing to come play for us on the cheap, and it was going to be one of those. It's like, how do we do that? Just like, you got to be kidding me. How were we able to pull that off? You were gone. Were you here when Kyler, or as Mark Rosen called him, Kyle Murphy?
I was here when he was talking about Kyle Murray.
Well, then he called him Kyle Murphy.
Oh, did he call him Murphy too?
Yeah, he called him Kyle Murphy.
Oh, boy.
Were you here once he was signed?
Yes.
Oh, you were. So we talked about it already.
I think the day of, or.
Oh, okay. Because I couldn't remember.
I got one day of you. Yeah.
Yeah, you've been gone so long. I had no idea.
I was there for the Kyle Murray discussion.
Do you? I can't remember. Look. I'll preface it by saying Pat Mahomes isn't available. So I actually like it. I mean, I don't know if he maybe what we've seen the past few years is that's just who he is with the Cardinals, right? Where he just hasn't been. He's been hot and cold. He's had his moments, I guess, but the Cardinals were willing to part ways. A lot of that, I think, had to do with the money. But think about this: they still have to pay him the money without having him there. They want to go in another direction. I think they're in complete reboot mode, right? Complete rebuild over in Phoenix. So it's like, well, we got to just start over again. Yeah. There's no use start with a quarterback that costs us that kind of money. But with the amount of money the Vikings have to pay with the current situation, they signed Wentz while you were away. They re-signed him. So it's
also not a good look for J.J. McCarthy.
No, that's for sure. But it's one of those where you got to win, and you got to win now. And I don't trust McCarthy either yet. But I'm still. It's kind of crazy because I wanted to keep Darnold. The Vikings decided they didn't want Darnold. They thought McCarthy was their guy, and I know there was some. They thought maybe they had a trick up their sleeve because they thought what's his face, Danny Dimes was probably going to stay here, and he didn't. And there were many people that were telling me, no, we need to move on. We don't need Darnold. We don't need Dimes. We need to see if we drafted the right guy. And I'm like, well, we had the right guy. His name is Sam Darnold. Old Sam Darnold had an arm.
Who, by the way, his number one wide receiver after this past season now is the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history.
That is correct.
JSN.
So now those same people seem to be, not everybody, but many of them seem to be completely turned off by McCarthy. And I've kind of come around the other way, and not that I'm saying they should just give the starting job to McCarthy. Why the heck did we get Murray? I wouldn't give up on him either. Again, he takes up a roster spot. You got to have a quarterback. You have to have a backup. They have two backups. They got McCarthy. They got Wentz. I think they are kind of I think they're in a much better situation this year than they were last year. Last year going in, and again, after that fourth quarter against the Bears, I was thinking, well, maybe they didn't make the right choice. Maybe this kid is going to be. Maybe it took him 3 quarters to figure out the National Football League, and now 9. By the way, Tennessee, while you were gone, my colonoscopy report came back, and all the polyps were benign. So that's my alter ego is benign. He's 9, I'm benign. I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe this kid is, but then we saw what happened the rest of the year and the injury prone stuff. So I don't have a problem getting Kyle Murphy. Do you?
No, I mean, I said at the time, and you've already made the point of, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, they're not available. And that those guys just don't exist in free agency. Am I convinced that Kyle Murphy / Kyler Murray will immediately turn the Vikings into a big game contender and he's going to be absolutely brilliant? I'm not convinced of that. I think I do have some concerns with him here, specifically how he will fit in a Kevin O'Connell system, because those two philosophies and playing styles seem to be going against each other. But out of all the quarterbacks that were available, Kyler Murray has the highest ceiling. He's still relatively young, which means if he did have a Sam Darnold-like season, you could have your franchise quarterback for the next 7 years.
Yep.
And you got him on the absolute cheap. So there's no risk. He's getting the bare minimum. If he doesn't work out, it didn't really cost you anything. Now, to your other points about J.J. McCarthy, I'm not convinced J.J. McCarthy's going to be on this roster.
Oh, really?
When you go out and get...
Let me do the...
Oh, my gosh. Above average at that.
They re-signed Carson Wentz, and not only did they re-sign Carson Wentz, they did it in March. This wasn't something they just picked him up in July or August. Said, hey, let's just kind of fill out the depth in our room, which to me means you have a role for him in mind, which is probably Kyler Murray's backup. Like, this Kyler Murray insurance in case Kyler doesn't work out. I don't know what good it does to have J.J. McCarthy as your third quarterback. If you still thought there was something in him that you could develop, I think you'd still want to put him in a backup situation and give him a chance. To me, this is the fact that they're doing this in March with Wentz instead of, because Carson Wentz would be available in May. Carson Wentz would be available in June.
Yeah.
Coming off an injury, my guess is he'd still be available. I think they're doing this so they can start having discussions with other teams before the draft and try to bring back draft capital in return for J.J. McCarthy.
Well, there was a story while you were away. Somebody tweeted it. I don't know who, reputable or not. They suggested that there were several teams, and they actually named them: Browns,
Really?
Rams, and somebody else that have reached out to the Vikings.
I didn't even know that
about McCarthy. Yes,
I was off the grid for 8 days. I didn't see any of this stuff.
So that was well. It raises some interesting issues. I have a couple of other ideas. One, I had a very controversial. If you thought signing 5 high-end running backs was controversial, the idea I had for McCarthy while you were away, it's either going to be you're either going to go brilliant or you're going to be rolling your eyes, shrugging your shoulders, and shaking your head. But we'll do that next.
You want to sign 5 quarterbacks like your 5 running backs from last year?
No, but it's
okay.
Well, but it'll raise some interesting issues. Let's just say that's next on the Common Man program on the Fan.
Your summer just leveled up. 311 and Dirty Heads are kicking off their tour at Mystic Lake Amphitheater on July 11th. Tickets drop this Friday at 10 a.m. Get all the details at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Couple 13-14 pass, Common Man program. I'm Common. He's Tenna. So, what is JJ? I'm going to do it like a it's not even multiple choice. I'll just ask you questions, see what your response is. What does JJ McCarthy need more than anything?
What does he need more than anything?
More than anything. What does he need to take that next step to see if he's really if he can play if he can be a franchise quarterback? Playing time.
Playing time.
Is he going to get any here? I mean, between now and the start of the season, what would he get? I mean, you would have OTAs, mini camp, training camp in which you're going to face the New England Patriots for 2 days, right? Then preseason games, which are only 3, and the way they work, even if he were to start and play all 3 games, he ain't throwing to Justin Jefferson, because guess what? Justin Jefferson ain't playing in that game.
No.
Addison probably is not playing in that game. Darisaw ain't playing in that game. O'Neal's not. So he's not even going to be playing with the starting offensive line, probably not running back, certainly not wide receivers, vanilla offense. How much does he really learn? Are you familiar with the United Football League, Tenneby? Could we loan him?
I always love that.
There's an expansion team. I think they're the Birmingham Stallions, I believe. You loan them to the Birmingham Stallions. Say, here's your guy. He plays the 10-game season. They're done like May 31st, just in time to get to that last OTA, that last mini camp, and be ready for training camp. Then he gets to play. Now, he could get hurt, I guess, but that's been his other problem. Now, I don't know if that's allowed by the league. That's the only problem.
Hurt, I guess, or hurt likely?
Yeah, well, hurt likely. I think about it. Then he would act. Now, again, the level of play isn't quite like the National Football League, but it's real football, real games, 10-game schedule. Get used to that grind. And what I brought up is that I checked with I hopped it, and AI said, well, no, you really can't because the league doesn't have an agreement with the UFL.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't they have an agreement with the UFL? Look at what we have: a D League in the NBA. The Wild have an Iowa affiliate, right, where they play games.
AHL.
Right? Minnesota Twins, though I would think maybe their St. Paul team is better than their big league team, but they have a why doesn't the NFL have that?
Their own minor league system.
Yeah, and
it's called college football.
Right, but again, once you get out of college football, I don't know why you couldn't have affiliate. I guess the one problem would be you don't have enough UFL teams. You don't have 32 of them, and then you couldn't have an affiliate. But he needs playing time is what he needs, and I don't know how he's going to get it unless you just play him during the regular season. Because as I say, with Oda's mini camps, that controlled scrimmage, whatever they call it, and then the 3 preseason games in which your star players that you want to get some kind of a connection with aren't going to play. He's just not going to have the opportunity to do it. He's with, I can't recall the kid's name. There's some guy that is his last name Beck? There's some guy that used to play. I'd never heard him before. He's played pro football for a cup of coffee. He's now allegedly the premier quarterback guru that works with people on the side, right? So I think right now, as we speak, I think that's where McCarthy is. He's somewhere in California, and he's working out with this guy. But, again, trying to get his eyes and his feet to match and all that. But unless you're doing it in real game action, I just don't know what it does. And to me, that's the hardest part of saying, how do we find out? That's why I guess what I'm saying, this lends a little credence to, I think, your idea that, well, if you've signed Wentz and you got Murray, what is there really any room for McCarthy? And even if you still think he's got it, without him playing, you'll never know, right? So I guess that's like with any quarterback that comes out in the draft and you draft him and he's on your team, he doesn't get experience until he plays in real games. But most of those guys you can see rather quickly. I mean, we saw the kid from Washington, Daniels. He can play. Cunningham Williams, he can play. Drake May, he can play. Looks like Nix can play. Now, we're not sure about Penix. So there are the guys that can play, and you play them in there, and you see right away, these guys, you can plug and play, is what we like to say. So I just don't know. And if you remember, the head coach has said this, and he gets quoted all across locally and nationally all the time with the idea he believes that organizations fail quarterbacks more than quarterbacks fail organizations, and so I don't know.
Is this the exception to this rule?
Well, that's what that's it. That's what I guess we don't know, but yeah. So you can. I know.
But I mean, to your point. They're not going to tell us, right? I'm sure we're not going to hear from KOC or I was about to say Kwesi. He's not there anymore. Rob Brzezinski in quite some time, but I'd love to know, what's the depth chart look like? And they didn't even tell us when Kyler Murray signed. They refused to say Kyler Murray was the one. They just tried to we're just trying to improve our quarterback room. And that's what they're going to go with Carson Wentz. But once you get into mini camps and OTAs, you're going to see the depth chart play out, and I just think J.J. McCarthy is going to be 3 on that.
Yeah.
Which, if he is going to be 3, then why have him on the roster? You might as well. His trade value is just going to get worse as it goes along the farther you go now. So to me, I think on draft day, he's going to get moved.
So there's a lot of people weighing in on this very controversial topic. This one says, I really believe the Vikes are still all in on McCarthy. They just needed solid backup solutions since McCarthy's injury history is a sign for concern. But I don't see them letting McCarthy leave or go elsewhere. He's a young QB with huge potential. I guess that is a way to look at it. I mean, he was drafted 10th overall. There were people remember, he played at Michigan, won a national title. He was 63-1 as a quarterback in high school and in college football. One of the question marks about McCarthy was, well, at Michigan, he really didn't. They don't pass. They run first, run second, run third, and then pass when they have to, or just to keep the defense honest, right? But when he was called upon to pass, he was pretty good. He won a national championship. So there were some people that said, well, you can't hold that against him. He still made the throws. Then there were people like me that said, well, you're right. I mean, I understand what you're saying. But because he's never, we read that when, for me, I've always said, fourth quarter, minute to go, blah, 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 right? In the cold, you're down 6. That's what I want to see what a quarterback can do. And some guys just need more time than others, but he might be that guy. But we talk about this all the time. It's just like if you're the coach of a team and you hitch your wagon to him, right? If you say, no, I still think McCarthy's the guy, and you go into this season, he's your number one guy, and you start the season and he's awful again, and you go 1-4 in your first 5 games, you've basically thrown that season away. And then you put your own job in jeopardy. And then, there are so many things. I mean, we've talked about this. Veteran players, they're playing for the now. I mean, they Jefferson being one of them. I want to win. I want to win now. I want to. Is all the other 52 guys just supposed to twiddle their thumbs and wait to see if this quarterback's going to be the guy over the next 2 years, 2 or 3 years? I don't think a lot of veterans want to sit around and do that. Now, you do whatever the team tells you to do. But I think it makes for a uncomfortable locker room if you have a guy that you continue to try to give the starting job to, and he's just not showing that he's ready.
Especially since he kind of got called out after the year. If you remember the Sam Darnold stories in January, what was the one that we read that I remember? There was a Blake Cashman was in it, and Justin Jefferson was in it.
Yep.
I think Harrison Smith was in it.
Yep.
And they weren't directly calling out J.J. McCarthy, but basically just saying, man, it would have been a much different season if we would have had Sam Darnold here. We all wanted him to stay. Like, that's not
correct.
Exactly endearing to your current quarterback, which to me, they knew at that time that there was going to be a change at that position. Otherwise, they don't go out and say that directly about their quarterback.
Right. This one says, is there any possibility that Murray and Wentz are actually competing for number 2 with essentially 9 planned to still start? Look, I don't think so, but I'm not putting anything past this organization because this organization let Darnold walk, right? They didn't have a good enough handle on Danny Dimes. They thought they knew what Danny Dimes had in mind, and I think we've all come to believe that Dimes just thought in his conversations, or at least by the actions of the Vikings, he was convinced that he really wasn't going to be in a competition with J.J. McCarthy. He was definitely going to be the backup. And he's thinking to himself, I want to start. And he looked at the Colts situation, and that just looked like he felt he had a better, and maybe he heard some things from Baltimore. Maybe they made some promises to him, but he just felt he had a better opportunity to start there. And lo and behold, he did. And weren't the Colts 8-1 before he got injured? I think they were 8-1, and then he became injured. So while I don't think there's a possibility that Murray and Wentz are playing for second and third string, I don't know. I don't know what this organization thinks sometimes.
I don't think Kyler Murray signs here, and I'm not sure Carson Wentz signs here, if that was the case.
Here's one. Why would you get rid of McCarthy now? You would be selling low on him now, and his trade value isn't going to get much lower, and we aren't paying him anything. He's only played 10 games. You just said we know Williams and May can play, but we really didn't know after 10 games if either one of them could play. Yeah, but in the case of Caleb Williams, though, everybody said he was generational. Every scouting report said he was generational. And he did struggle in his first year, and there were extenuating circumstances there. Their head coach obviously is gone. I don't think he knew what he was doing. They didn't have a lot to work with there, and they didn't have quarterback whisperer, right? How many times did you see Williams just taking a sack, right, not knowing what to do? And then he gets Ben Johnson there. And did they play in the NFC Championship game, the Bears? No. It was Rams in Seattle. They lost to, who did they lose to?
They lost to, was it the Rams?
It must have been the Rams. So they ended up losing. Yeah, they did lose to the Rams. That was the one where he backpedaled or was that the Packer game where he backpedaled and just threw the ball into the end zone, whatever. May, who's May? Drake May. Yeah, on that, I don't know. It's just, I call it the eye test. I don't know. The Kevin O'Connell Rehabilitation Center for Quarterbacks with such success stories as Nick Mull, Jaron, Josh, Sam Ha, Max Bro, Carson Wentz, J.J. McCarthy. Well, that's what I've kind of said all along about this quarterback whisperer thing. Has just gotten completely out of control. When he was with the Rams, he got credit for helping to develop Jared Goff, right? They got to a big game with Goff. And then we saw what happened with Dobbs. There are many people, and Dobbs was good for a game or two. Then there were people that thought under O'Connell, until he got hurt, Cousins was headed toward his best season as a pro, and that may be the case. I don't know if that's all because of O'Connell in his tutelage. Sometimes it might not just be him coaching up the quarterback. It just might be you have a better team around Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to know that. And then I've read the quotes for it. I can dig them up again if you want. Darnold basically gave all the credit to Brock Purdy. Now, that was at his introductory news conference in Seattle. Could he have been a little bitter about what happened in Minnesota after the season he had the two bad games, especially the one against Detroit? I don't know. He said all the right things right into the media tried to get it out of him after the Rams game and the NFC Championship game and after the big game. What about the people that doubted you? Do you have any message you want to send to them? He said, I don't have any message to send to anybody. We won. I'm very happy. He didn't go like, well, you doubted me and now I'm here. Yeah, right. He didn't do any of that. He did not do that. Whether he really does feel that way, and he may have. He probably thought he was coming back to Minnesota, right? And then he didn't. So maybe
I would say actions speak louder than words.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe, and it's not to take some of the credit away from O'Connell, but maybe it was more what happened in San Francisco and then came here and he was in a pretty good position because it was a pretty good club, right? And there was another one. Give me 1 second here, Ted. Here's one. Do you think it's possible that after the Murray signing, McCarthy and his agent are requesting a trade, and that's why they signed Carson Wentz? That's why it's been quiet from JJ so far. I guess that's possible.
Sure.
Wants a fresh start somewhere. Because as we talked about, there were rumors while you were away on your Orlando vacation that there were teams that had reached out to the Vikings.
I will say, I don't know if he's in a position to be. He hasn't played good enough to be demanding, requesting trades, and wherever he's going to end up. It's not like he's going to find some starting spot out of this, right? He's just going to get traded somewhere else where he'd be a backup.
McCarthy's a baller and a gamer and just needs to mature. You don't let that go. Fans loved his passion. We need that. He's a gamer. I mean, he does not lack for confidence. He's won a lot of football games. That fourth quarter against the Bears was terrific. It was, and he had a few other moments the rest of the season last year.
In the first three quarters, he looked like the worst quarterback I'd ever seen.
That's it. And in many of the bad throws he made in the first three quarters of that game, he was continuing to make as the season progressed in that last 4 or 5 games when we won 5 games in a row. And again, he says, you don't let that go. Fans loved his passion. We need that. And as a fan, it's a lot easier to say that because you don't have anything other than fandom invested. O'Connell has his job at stake there.
Yes.
If I go with the McCarthy kid, if I tell the Wilfs, we're going with McCarthy again, we're going to start him, I can get something out of him, and you don't, the Wilfs might go, why did you do that? You're not getting anything out of him. And then another season goes by the wayside. So, this one says, I think you may have it wrong. McCarthy will be the starter in week 1 with the shortest hook of all time. Kyler Murray will be finishing the first game after you see JJ do more of the same. Well, I guess that's a possibility too. I mean,
it seems weird to go an entire offseason going, we're going to let this guy be the guy for maybe a quarter or two, but we're going to pull him right away if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I think you want a little bit better solution in March than that.
Well, and I think the hook thing that he suggests would be that'd be too quick of a hook. I don't know, Teneby. I tend to lean to what you're saying. I don't know about if actually trading him because I will agree with the one text message. I don't know what you could even get for him right now, but if you can get anything at all, what do you think you could get for him? A 6th-round pick? Could you even get that?
I think you get a 6th-round pick for him. I
don't know. Murray's had problems staying healthy as well, right? Wentz has had problems as well. So it's possible. Play this scenario out. Murray starts, he's out week 3. Wentz comes in, he's out week 5. You want Brosmer? Do you want to give McCarthy on? And then what if McCarthy comes in week 7 and 9 comes back? And suddenly he's brilliant. And then there is always the fear, I would think, at least from, it's got to be, O'Connell has to, I would think, or maybe doesn't think about these things. You already let Darnold walk. What if you did, now, it seems like Darnold and McCarthy are certainly two different, but Darnold didn't have a lot of success before Minnesota either. He'd gone from being the 3rd pick overall. He went from the Jets to Carolina to San Francisco as a backup. If you were to let McCarthy go and somebody does give him some time and all of a sudden he blossoms into a pretty good quarterback, that's 2 guys you've let go. Now, I'm with you. I'm skeptical that could happen.
But you could also do it the opposite, where he's an awful quarterback and you held on to him too long.
That's true, too.
When you should have gotten rid of him when you knew it was going to be over for him.
You seem to be pretty down on McCarthy.
I am. Did you watch last year?
Yeah.
And I liked him when they drafted him.
You did.
I liked him out of Michigan. You
loved him out of Michigan.
I'm not afraid to admit I was wrong.
Yeah.
He was terrible last year. There were reports that the second half of the season they wouldn't even let him. They wouldn't even call plays where he had to throw the ball over the middle because he couldn't do it. You can't. Especially for a guy like KOC who's so invested into his offense, he's not going to move forward with someone like that. That I have to take away half my playbook. KOC loves his playbook. He wants someone who can play with his playbook.
But he's also a quarterback.
JJ McCarthy, and you know what? It was JJ McCarthy's first year playing quarterback, but he wasn't a rookie.
Yeah.
So this isn't a part where you should still be making mental mistakes and not knowing playbook stuff and system stuff.
But what if you really believe you're a quarterback whisperer?
Well, he's never said that. That's been a media narrative thrown on him. That's been from the media and fans. That hasn't been KOC going around going, I'm pretty good at developing quarterbacks. He's never once said that.
Not in that way, shape, or form, but in that Fox interview, when they said quarterback whisperer, he interjected and said, look, I don't like that, but we've done a pretty good job here. So he still feels like he's good at working with quarterbacks. I think that's one of the feathers in his cap that he has. But yeah, he's never come up and said, when I get to the Hall of Fame, I wanted to say quarterback whisperer on my bust. But I think he feels pretty
I think
good.
what it's clear is he likes having quarterbacks that have been around for a while because he does have a complicated offense and these young guys just can't pick it up.
This is true. I tend to agree with that as well. We'll come back, talk a little NCAA basketball next here on The Fan.